Hi, my favorites. I missed you guys. I know this is not the ideal way for me to teach you and for you to learn. But thank you to those who are watching these videos and trying and giving it your best and emailing me questions. I'm noticing and I'm thankful. So I'm going to be quarantined a few more days. So please hang with me. I promise I am coming back and I'm very, very ready. I don't like this. I would go out on a limb and say I like it less than you. This is not fun. So anyway, here we go. I am going to go over a couple of examples from Monday and Tuesday with Pythagorean theorem, a couple from Wednesday with Pythagorean inequality theorem, because you're going to do a Google form today that has both of them, and then Friday you're going to take a little quiz over those two concepts. So think of this as like a review day for your quiz on Friday, okay? So let's just go over. Nothing new today. We're just going to go over them again. So the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. These are four right triangles. So assume everything I've given you today for Pythagorean theorem is right triangles, even though they're not going to have the little box inside. I don't have resources or access to everything at home that I normally do at school. And so I just had to pull these off the internet and make them work. So just assume that they're all right triangles if I'm asking you to use Pythagorean theorem on them. Okay. All right. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Across from the right angle is going to be my hypotenuse, which means the other two numbers are the legs. So this time I'm solving for c. So 9 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. So let's figure out what is 9 squared plus 8 squared. That is 145. And then I want c all by itself. So I'm going to take the square root, because the opposite of squaring something is square rooting something. So the square root of 145, 12.04. So rounded to the nearest tenth would just be 12. 12.0 or 12. Which is a reasonable answer because this is the hypotenuse and that's the longest side of the triangle. So 12 is bigger than 8 and 9. So reasonable answer. All right, let's look at the next one. So again, we're going to assume this is a right triangle. There's my right angle. My Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. These are my legs, 7 and b, with 25 being the hypotenuse. So 7 squared plus b squared equals my hypotenuse squared, which is 25. Now, since 7 squared and 25 squared are opposite each other, they're across the equal sign from one another, I'm going to subtract. Because ultimately I want b squared all by itself over here. And then I'm going to type this in my calculator. 25 squared minus 7 squared. Oops. I get 576. And then last step every time will be to take the square root to undo that squared. So the square root of 576, 24. So B is 24, which again is a reasonable answer because it is less than the length of my hypotenuse, which was 25. Okay, one more. Just like on your Google form Wednesday, you'll have one or two where I don't give you a picture, I just give you the ABC. We're going to do it the same way though. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm given a and c, so I'm going to plug those in. and I'm looking for b. So it stays. Once I've got it plugged in, I'm just solving for the variable. So just like the one above, my two numbers are opposite the equal sign, so I'm going to subtract because I want to get b squared all by itself. So I need to figure out 40 squared minus 23 squared. $1,071. Square root both sides. So the square root, 1,071, 32.7. Which is reasonable because it is smaller than my hypotenuse of 40. All right, so there are a few just reminders of Pythagorean theorem. Then the second part of your practice today is going to be using the Pythagorean theorem inequality, where you're still using the a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but you're deciding what kind of triangle it is. Is it a right triangle, an acute triangle, or an obtuse triangle? So if c squared is equal, then it's a right triangle, because that's what we did up here. A squared plus b squared equaled c squared, and it was all in reference to right triangles. Okay, so that's just an extension of what you did Monday and Tuesday. So if c squared is equal, it's a right triangle. If c squared is greater than, if it's bigger, it's obtuse. If c squared is less than, smaller, then it's acute, which makes sense, I think. If c squared is bigger, it's obtuse. Obtuse are the big angles. If c squared is less, it's acute. Acute are the small ones. Those of you that made mistakes on Wednesday, when I looked back at the answers, most of you mixed these two up. So just remember that you're always comparing it to c squared. All right, let's just do a couple. So first, let's determine if the three sides can form a triangle. So I have to add these two together and see, is it bigger than 20? So we're like asking a question each time. So 12 plus 16 is 28, which is greater than 20. So yes, it forms a triangle. Now let's figure out which kind. So a squared plus b squared. How does that compare to c squared? These are in order, A, B, C. C is always the biggest. If you mix up A and B, it doesn't matter. So 12 squared plus 16 squared. How does that compare to 20 squared? So 12 squared plus 16 squared. 400. Compared to, oh, that 20, that 0 didn't, right, there we go. 20 squared. Ah, also 400. So what does that mean? If these are equal, what kind of triangle is that? It's a right triangle, because that's what we did Monday and Tuesday. A squared plus b squared equaled c squared on right triangles. All right, let's do another one. 8, 15, and 23. So I'm going to compare these two added together to 23. Let's see, 8 plus 15 is 23. Oh, is 23 bigger than 23? No, it's not. So this is not a triangle. So there's no need to go any farther. It doesn't make a triangle, so it's not going to make an acute one or an obtuse one. It doesn't make a triangle. This would be a flat line if you tried to connect those three lengths. All right, moving on. 31, 35, and 39. I can tell, I don't even have to do that math. This added together is going to be bigger than 39, right? a lot bigger. Okay, so I know that it is a triangle. So let's see what kind. So A, B, and C. 31 squared plus 35 squared. How does that compare to 39 squared, C squared? So 31 squared plus 35 squared. 2,186. Compared to 39 squared, 1,521. So this is my C squared. It is less than, smaller. So if my C squared is smaller, then it's an acute triangle. All right, last one. 11 and 19 compared to 28. 11 plus 19 is 30, and that is bigger than 28. So it is a triangle. Let's see what kind. A squared plus B squared compared to C squared. So here's my ABC. So 11 squared plus 19 squared compared to 28 squared. So 11 squared plus 19 squared, 482. Compared to 28 squared. 784. So this is my C squared, and it is bigger, which would make my triangle obtuse. Okay. Remember that you have a quiz over these two concepts on Friday. Please continue to email me with your questions, ask your neighbors. Thank you for continuing to try, and I miss you guys, and I look forward to being with you soon.